Hello, my name is Amaury Dehoux, and this year I teach French at the University of Antwerp. I am also a researcher specializing in Francophone literature of the Global South. That brings me to this new episode of Académie voor Voetbalcultuur, where I would like to talk about the Haitian national football team. You might point out that Haiti has already been eliminated from the World Cup. Yet, as I hope to show, Haiti is never truly eliminated. In fact, one could argue that Haiti has already won. To explain what I mean, I would like to turn to the work of one of the authors at the heart of my research, Dany Laferrière, a Haitian francophone writer and member of the French Academy. Like many Haitians, he is also an avid football fan. In his memoir, Tout bouge autour de moi, The World is Moving Around Me, published in 2011, Laferrière remarks that besides being largely inaccessible to ordinary Haitians, a golf course simply holds little appeal. Football, by contrast, is the nation's true passion. A few pages later, he writes, and I quote, Brazil and Haiti have three things in common: coffee, a love of football, and voodoo. He goes on to describe the almost devotional attachment many Haitians feel toward the Brazilian national team, to the point of supporting Brazil even when it plays against Haiti. In practice, however, such conflicts of loyalty have been rare, since prior to this year, Haiti had qualified for the World Cup only once, in 1974. As Laferrière notes, on the eve of the tournament, it is usually Brazilian flags that fill the streets of Port-au-Prince, the capital of the Caribbean nation. This year, however, it is not difficult to imagine the green and yellow of Brazil's giving way to the red and blue of the Haitian flag. Haiti qualification for the 2026 World Cup is a remarkable achievement, not only in footballing terms, but also in the history of the nation itself. In several interviews, Laferrière has spoken of the joy he felt as a Haitian supporter at seeing his national team reach the World Cup. During the Canadian radio program, L'Agacé le Matin, he reflected at length on the powerful symbolic significance of Haiti qualification, declaring, just when we think Haiti should be in despair, hope suddenly emerges from somewhere else. To understand this remark, some context is essential. Haiti is currently experiencing a profound political crisis. Since the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse in 2021, the country has had no democratically elected head of state. No election have been held since 2017, a succession of interim governments that has struggled to establish stability, while the authorities have found it increasingly difficult to contain armed gangs that wage war against one another and control ever larger regions of the country. For ordinary Haitians, the consequences have been severe. Chronic insecurity, endemic violence, and persistent poverty continue to define everyday life. Against this backdrop, Haiti qualification for the World Cup becomes, for Laferrière, a genuine source of hope. In his view, it testifies to the resilience, determination, and vitality of Haiti's younger generation. The players pursued professional careers abroad in Europe or North America, yet remain deeply committed to representing their country despite every obstacle. Deprived of a national stadium and forced to play their home matches outside Haiti, they have shown remarkable resolve in ensuring that Haiti continues to be seen and recognized on the world stage. Interestingly, and this is where my literary scholar's hat comes in, Laferrière interview tells us more than simply about the realities of Haiti. It also, and perhaps above all, reveals the writer's own imaginative universe. The way he understands both football and Haiti, to see this more clearly, let us return to the book I mentioned earlier, The World is Moving Around Me. What story does this book tell? It begins with a tragedy. On January 12, 2010, Laferrière was in Haiti when a devastating earthquake struck, killing more than 280,000 people, destroying countless homes and severely damaging major buildings, including the National Palace. Witnessing the catastrophe firsthand, the writer chose to do what he does best: write. In The World is Moving Around Me, he assembles a series of brief vignettes that captures everyday life in Haiti in the hours and months following the earthquake, which Haitians themselves came to call Goudou Goudou. Football repeatedly surfaces through these scenes. In one neighborhood, still bearing the scars of the disaster, the narrator hears children playing football, their laughter punctuated by, as he writes, that joyful cry when a goal is scored. The contrast with the collapsed house beside which they are playing is profoundly symbolic. Through this juxtaposition, Laferrière suggests that Haitians retain their capacity to live even in the aftermath of catastrophe. Football becomes a life-affirming force, standing in direct opposition to the destructive power of the earthquake. A few pages later, that same contrast appears once again when the narrator turns to Haiti's attachment to Brazilian football. After all, 2010 was also a World Cup year. Just a few months after the earthquake, Haitians found a source of joy and respite in Brazil's campaign, which they follow with unwavering enthusiasm. Once again, football becomes a force for renewal. It allows Haitians to resist being defined solely by their suffering. As the narrator observes, the earthquake was no longer the city's main topic of conversation. This does not mean that football functions as a kind of opiate, allowing people to forget their hardships. No. Laferriere's argument is far more nuanced. Football becomes a source of agency. It embodies the Haitians' ability to define themselves through their experiences they choose to embrace, rather than allowing themselves to be cast as passive victims of nature and history. In this sense, football forms part of the broader vision of Haiti that Laferrière constructs throughout his narrative. The World is Moving Around Me is not simply an account of a natural disaster. More fundamentally, it is an ode to Haiti's resilience. Through the figure of his mother, the narrator recalls the long succession of hardships to which the earthquake merely adds another chapter. Since gaining independence, the world's first Black Republic has endured coup d'etat, hurricanes, floods, and the hereditary dictatorship of the Duvalier family. The narrator is fully aware that, although this history of suffering must never be forgotten, dwelling on it alone risks reducing Haiti to a story of misery. His rejection of the notion of Haiti as a cursed country makes this perfectly clear. He refuses to let the island be defined solely by poverty and suffering. To do so, he argues, would be an affront to the energy and dignity that the Haitian people displayed in the aftermath of the earthquake. For precisely this reason, Laferrière must himself write with great care. Writing about catastrophe always risks reinforcing stereotypical images of Haiti as a place defined only by misery. Accordingly, while never concealing the death or the destruction, his narratives lingers instead on scenes that reveal the energy and dignity with which Haitians confront everyday adversity. His mother's seemingly inexhaustible resilience in the face of repeated hardship, the courage of a journalist who continues reporting despite the death of his wife, the presence of a mango seller back at her stall the very next day, and the flourishing of literature and painting which continue to thrive even amid devastation. In short, as the narrator himself explains, he does not recount the catastrophe in order to elicit pity. Rather, he presents the earthquake as revealing the indestructible hope that animates the Haitian people. They become, in his telling, the embodiment of a humanity so fiercely committed to life that it can bring, as Laferrière writes, hope into hell itself. Elsewhere, he puts it even more forcefully. It was not Haiti's suffering that moved the world so profoundly, but the way its people confronted that suffering. This disaster revealed before our astonished eyes a people whose flourishing had long been prevented by corrupt institutions. Those institutions had to disappear, if only for a moment, for us to see emerge through a cloud of dust a people at once proud and unassuming. Laferrière's own narrative participates in the same resilience that he attributes to the Haitian people. By placing himself within the story, he repeatedly foregrounds the act of writing that he undertakes almost immediately after the disaster. In doing so, he implicitly presents himself as an embodiment of the very people he celebrates. Faced with an event so extraordinary that it seems to impose the silence of death, the true Haitian writer refuses to remain silent. Instead, he immediately embraces what is almost a Promethean task, to find words for an event so unprecedented that language itself seemed until then incapable of describing it. To speak of Haiti for Laferrière is also to speak of himself, to underline the resilience he shares with his native country. This resilience runs through much of his autobiographical work. Like his island, Laferrière is no stranger to misfortune. As a young journalist, he was forced into exile in Montreal following the assassination of a friend by the regime of Jean-Claude Duvalier, known as Baby Doc, in 1976. He draws on this experience in Chronique de la dérive douce, Chronicle of a Soft Drift. There, he portrays the hardships faced by a young Asian immigrant in Canada. Poor and precariously housed, the narrator lives in shabby rooms and often goes hungry, at times even resorting to eating pigeons caught in public parks. To survive, he accepts poorly paid factory work that exploits the vulnerability of migrant labor. He is also confronted with racism and the harshness of winter, which he captures in a sentence that crystallizes his condition. It is not always easy for someone who comes from a summer country where everyone is black to wake up in a winter country where everyone is white. Exile, then, is first and foremost a source of suffering for someone who loses their homeland and becomes a stranger elsewhere. Yet, at the same time, this estrangement becomes a source of unexpected richness for the narrator, who comes to describe it as the last great human adventure. He finds himself in an in-between conditions that allows him to construct a new form of belonging, a new form of identity, shaped by the encounter between two worlds. Exile is no longer merely a loss, but the discovery of a new home, grounded in the ability to make sense of life's experience. And in this capacity to make meaning, literature plays a decisive role. It offers the exile a kind of universal homeland in which they are always already at home. To withstand hunger, cold, or poverty, the narrator can always turn to the books he reads, particularly Borges in Chronique de la dérive douce. More fundamentally, literature becomes the very expression of the Haitian writer's resilience. At the end of the narrative, the narrator leaves his factory job, buys a typewriter and decides to dedicate himself entirely to writing. In doing so, he mirrors Laferriere's own decision to write in Canada. A politically exiled writer, silenced both in his country of origin and his country of residence. He writes in order to make his voice heard, turning literature into a form of resistance and a space of hope. Laferriere's experience of exile then brings us back to football. Canada has just faced Morocco in the round of 16 of the World Cup. Striker Jonathan David, himself part of the Haitian diaspora, embodies a figure that fits into Laferriere's symbolic universe, another expression of Haiti's resilience, a reminder that even when eliminated, Haiti can never fully disappear. In this sense, football and literature are deeply intertwined in Laferriere's work. Both function as vectors of hope in the face of the crisis that continue to confront Haitians. As long as football is played and as long as stories are written, Haiti, in a sense, continues to win.
Universiteit Antwerpen. Bepaal mee de toekomst.